Welcome to my 0% growth run of Fire Emblem 4. I will be playing through the game with all character growth set to 0% and attempting to get the lowest turn count possible without using the rescue glitch. I'll be RNG abusing because further into the game pretty much everything that isn't super slow becomes unreliable, and I think it's far more interesting to watch if my turn counts are actually low. There isn't too much to talk about strategically in this chapter. It's pretty simple, so I'll mostly be discussing the characters. Alec is pretty bad. He's not good on a playthrough with growths. Pursuit is nice, but honestly, all he's doing is chipping during the first 2 chapters, and then he's off to the arena to burn random numbers. Noish is actually rather useful in this playthrough, although in a normal playthrough, he can never finish enemies because his skills like critical never act and charge never activate. I'm RNG abusing, so I actually managed to make some use out of them. And Sigurd is just amazing, as you all know. Even on 0% growths, he's pretty dominant throughout the first 2/3 of the generation. He's tied for Qualm for the highest base stats of all the cavalry, and but he has Pursuit over Qualm, which is a big advantage because although I can rig continues, I can't counterattack on enemy phase always reliably. And Arden is just terrible, you know that. He's not even good for RNG abusing because due to ambush he burns 2 RNs at a time, meaning that if I'm using him to abuse random numbers, it takes twice as long. So his only real contribution is the Pursuit ring in Chapter 2. And up there you saw that we got Azel. He's bad. His only contributions are dumping money onto Ideen and giving her the rescue staff. Lex isn't too good either because I don't get the hero axe on this playthrough because I go too fast in Chapter 1. But he's another mount. He's kind of useful. So, yeah, not much to say at this early stage. Sigurd unfortunately gets hit on this turn, but it doesn't really matter. The chances of it happening this time are really unlikely. The chances of it happening again are really low as well, so he's fine taking a few hits and going down in health. Yeah, that happens. Very unlikely, but whatever. Kind of ridiculous how Sigurd can solo the whole portion of the map, but that's Fire Emblem 4 balance for you. Anyways, so of these units, Quan is obviously amazing. High stats, continue, really high attack power, he can destroy a lot. Finn probably ties Nadir for the best unpromoted non-Ethlin cavalry because although his stats aren't too great, he has the prayer skill, which you can abuse to make a lot of enemy phases much more reliable because if he's low on health, even though he'll dodge everything, all the enemies will attack him. Anyways, so it helps at several points. And Ethlin, well, she's indispensable in this run. I have no idea what I'd do without her. She fills the niche of a mounted healer when in a mount-based game, and furthermore, she boosts the avoid of Sigurd and Quan by 10 each because of lover and sibling bonuses, and gives them both access to critical. Also, another great thing about her is a lot of enemies like to target her, which you'd think would be bad because of her low health and defenses, but she has high evade to begin with and gets a further plus 30 boost if she's near Sigurd and Quan due to lover bonuses, sibling bonuses, and Sigurd's leadership bonus, which makes her very dodgy, and so her attracting a bunch of enemy hits is actually a very good thing. So we'll be getting into the actual strategically complicated part of this map because a bit of unusual positioning and playthroughs is necessary to clear this chapter in 9 turns. So here in a normal playthrough, Sigurd could have maybe procced strength twice, but since there are no growths, he doesn't have that luxury. So you'll soon see that he uses his Iron Lance to attack the brigand on the blocking the way to the gate, and it results in him getting hit. But the Iron Lance has 2 higher might than the Steel Sword, which allows him to clearly run around KO the enemy blocking the gate. And if he couldn't do that, then I'm pretty sure that the 5 turn of this chapter would be impossible. He goes low on health, but he's very dodgy. It doesn't matter. Sigurd's fine. And the other thing you may notice is Lex moving really far away. I'll explain that later, but for the most part, it's everybody making a mad dash at the bridge to help Sigurd punch through. Sigurd's overpowered. He's more than capable of handling himself at the beginning, and yeah, Arden is still useless. He perhaps make his largest contribution to the run right now by burning RMs by attacking random people. He doesn't really do anything. So yeah, now Sigurd just dodges a lot. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the strength to one-round these people on 0% growths. It's a common problem throughout the game, but usually it can be worked around by having enough units chipping. Just Mario, it takes 2 rounds to kill him. Some playthroughs work around this by having Quan get near and javelin him, but I wasn't sure about the hit rates, and this strategy worked anyways, so why bother? So Lex moves here so that on the first turn of so that next chapter he baits out the hand axe. The thing is, the enemy's AI is organized into squads, so that like one of them is baited, they'll all attack. And there are 2 squads, the one that charge you immediately, and the one guarding the castle. And the thing about, and the hand axe, who stands one directly left of the bridge, belongs to the second squad, the one guarding the castle. And I want to draw that squad out as early as possible, because otherwise they'll all attack me as I cross the bridge, which is on turn 8 when I finally cross the bridge, and I don't have a strong enough army to punch through all of them in one turn, so it necessitates slowing down and getting a 10 turn instead of a 9 turn. So it's very important that I bait them out on the first turn by putting Lex in range of that hand axe near the bridge. It allows the... Sorry, I realized there was a problem with my recording because I didn't have Run in the background turned on. I had to scroll through my notes, so I'm new to recording. The quality will be better. If you have any suggestions, just tell me. But it's important to draw them out, because then instead of having to punch through a 1 square gap across the bridge, they're more spread out, which makes it easier for Quan, Sigurd, and Ethlin to charge through to reach the gate quicker. So otherwise they'll just bunch up in the choke point and make it impossible for me to get a 9 turn, so that's why. This looks very dangerous for Nadir. It is, he has a chance of dying, but with a bit of planning, I'm massaged the random numbers. Speaking of Nadir, I might as well explain about him now. He's probably he's very useful on this run, because when you're rigging, Charge is a very good skill. It lets you one round pretty much anything you want. He also has a nice contribution in Chapter 2, something that I was inspired by the 161 turn Nico video playthrough. But anyways, you'll see that later. And all in all, his charge skill is very useful. He takes out a lot of enemies. He probably contributes more than all the other unpromoted cavalry. He's normally not a very good unit, but since it's 0% growth, a lot of normally bad units find niches, especially Daedra. You'll learn about that later. But yeah, so there's not much left to say about this chapter, really. Now it's just kind of a mad rush to the gate. Early on, a lot of strategies in this game aren't very nuanced just because it's a cavalry rush. For the most part, I do have to miss out on the silver sword in this chapter, which is obviously nor should now go here to damage enemies a bit to make it possible to punch through. It's not that complicated. And Hazel moves over here to get the village so that he can later give it to Aideen once they're paired. But a lot of strategies in the early game aren't super nuanced because they're all just cavalry rushes. This one takes a tiny bit more planning because I don't have access to an arena to RNG abuse, but thankfully it all works out so that a 9 turn is possible, even on 0% growth. So, one thing that I'll do is that, you'll notice that assume that I'm weakening a lot of enemies but not outright killing them. And this is because they aren't that offensively strong, so like Quan and Sigurd are fine anyways. But the important thing about weakening them is that it means on the last turn it's kind of tricky because I need to rig a continue so that Quan lands 2 hits on the boss and then has 2 Steel Lance hits on the boss and then have Sigurd finish him off. And obviously since I don't have an arena, that's not the most likely system events. I can't be bothered to calculate the percentage, but it's low. So I want to have a lot of a latitude for moving through random numbers quickly. So what happens is at that point, a lot of units are near promotion, and by finishing off opponents, they can level up. And even though all the growth rates are set to 0, the game will still use a bunch of random numbers to determine stat ups, even though there won't be any. So by weakening a lot of opponents, it allows me to cycle through a lot of random numbers on the last turn to make sure that things go well. I'm missing out on the Silver Sword. This chapter, there's no way to get it and finish in 9 turns. But it doesn't really matter in any way throughout the playthrough, in terms of turns, because while it may be nice at some portions, in terms of inheritance, Celis is getting a hero sword because it's a better weapon than the Silver Sword. Anyways, and I doubt I'd get the Silver Sword enough kills in the first generation. Furthermore, in terms of boss killing, the Steel Lance is actually the highest might weapon that Sigurd can use until the Hero Lance becomes available. So he really has no real need for the Silver Sword. It might make things a bit more reliable at some points, but not really. Anyways, so, Albus helps out. That's all he's doing in this playthrough, besides making my life a living hell in Chapter 10. But, anyways, you can see down there that Nadir is the one getting the speed ring, and there might be a better person to give it to, but it helps him a lot because enemies really like to attack Nadir, so the extra avoid is good. It makes him more likely to proc charge, and he's also the only one who can really get it. Like, at this point, if Sigurd was down there, it would cost a turn, and he doesn't need it anytime soon, nor does any other unit, really. So, I'm fine with where it goes. So, I'm nearing the end of this chapter now. This is the second last turn. I attack in specific orders. If it seems like I'm kind of jumping around the place, it's really just to burn random numbers. I weaken that archer so that someone could get a level up next turn to burn RNs. But it's so that Quan can get a continue off on that archer to make the 9 turn possible. So yeah, I guess I was just slow with reading my notes at this point. So yeah, continues really good when Quan activates it, which happens a lot once I have access to the arena. And he equips the Javelin Spay as an attack. He's on low health, so, and he still needs to take a hit from the ball. And Azel visits the village just so that he can later dump cash on Ideen, because she needs to buy a bunch of staffs to pass them on in the 2nd generation. Nadir keeps on fighting. It took quite a bit of planning and working out different attacking orders to get Nadir to survive, because he's not made to take a lot of opponents, but it's alright. And here, it seems rather risky to throw Ethlyn out in the middle of nowhere, but she has high avoid, is getting a plus 20 evade boost from Sigurd. She can take a hit because next turn's the last turn, and it's very important to have her that far forward. So I'm currently wasting RNs here, but it's important because Quan has rather low hit rates, and the only continue that was possible in the RN chain was at hit rates that would only work if Quan had a plus 10 bonus to hit, which is what being near a lover gives you in this game. So Ethlyn, if she moved a space, if she couldn't move that far, if she'd moved a space less leftwards, then the 9 turn wouldn't have been possible. So it's really important to throw her in that risky situation there, even though it's not too risky, so that she can, otherwise one of these attacks would have missed. So now Alex just has one final attack to make it so that Sigurd doesn't get killed. So this chapter is completed in 9 turns. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with chapter 1 at some point.